The Diamond Ring is a Korean short story about a mother and daughter, their distance, their love, and the things left unsaid between them. The Diamond Ring. If you have plans today, you don't have to see me. It was Christmas Eve morning. I was slipping on my shoes about to leave for work when my mother said it. I turned around and looked at her face. She wore the sulky expression of a small child. Mom, did something come up today? No. Then why? I thought you might be making time for me out of obligation. I don't have plans. We said we'd have dinner together tonight. Then should I wait for you downstairs by your office when you finish? Her face lit up instantly. Moments like this. She looks like a 6-year-old. My mother had been too busy surviving to ever think about how she looked. She didn't start to change until she passed through menopause. Her life as a woman in her younger years may not have been a happy one. She says growing old itself is a sorrowful thing, but she tries hard to live with joy. Still, the emptiness she feels on special days, that she can't seem to help. Today is one of those days. It has only been 2 years since we started living together again. Widowed young, my mother had leaned on me for a long time. We clashed often, even over small things. I decided to move out. Mom, clean out the fridge. Something's rotting in there. There's blue mold growing on it. What do you even do at home all day? Put the side dishes in containers. If you just shove everything in, you forget about it. Why are you sticking your nose in my kitchen? Because what you do drives me crazy. If you think you can do better, do it yourself. Stop ordering your old mother around. I can't stand looking at this. I might as well just move out. You get to live however you want, so why can't I do things my way? Why do I always have to sacrifice? At my age, do I really have to live under my own daughter's thumb? Mom opened the fridge and pulled out a bowl of side dishes without a proper lid. The fermented seafood smelled sharply of sourness. A bundle wrapped in black plastic looked like liquid had seeped out of it. The slippery bag was oozing with doenjang paste. This kind of thing happened constantly between us. My mother wanted to be deeply involved in my life, and I found it exhausting. For example, whenever I was out on a date with my boyfriend, she would call asking when I'd be home. My dates were always interrupted because of her. Wanting some distance, I dropped a bombshell on her. Mom, our lifestyles just don't match. I can't live with you anymore. I'm tired of living with you too. After declaring my independence, I found a small studio near work and moved out. We went a while without contacting each other, but just when I thought the quiet would last, she started showing up at my place every other day. After I left for work, she'd come by with home-cooked side dishes and fill my fridge, then leave. No matter how many times I told her not to, she kept appearing like a fairy godmother slipping in unnoticed. It was a night he was staying over at my studio. I was in bed, gripping his firm, toned backside with both hands, when my phone rang loudly. Don't answer it, he breathed against my ear, his breath heavy and rough. The ringing stopped after a while. Then it started again. Who is it? Just turn it off. He pulled away from me. The moment I picked up, a sharp voice came pouring through. You heartless girl! Even if your own mother dropped dead, you wouldn't bat an eye. Mom, what time is it? What does the time matter? Your mother's been in the hospital and you haven't shown your face once. Mom, it's not like this is the first time. You check yourself in every year for one thing or another. This time is different. I was actually in an accident. Aren't you even the least bit curious what state your mother is lying in right now? I'm disgusted. I'm not even sure I gave birth to you. She hung up on me, one-sided as always. He had rolled over and was smoking a cigarette. The next day when I visited the hospital, her color looked fine. She had lost her balance on a bus that lurched forward suddenly. Her ankle ligament was torn and her leg was in a cast. When the doctor mentioned she was showing early signs of diabetes, she decided to get a full workup while she was at it. I hired a caregiver and only visited in the evenings. Mom complained about the nurses, too. One couldn't find her vein and stuck her several times, so she demanded the attending physician come and give the injection himself. When the doctors made their morning rounds, and a whole parade of them filed into her room to check on her, she demanded to know if she was a zoo animal. Why were they all poking and prodding her in a group? She said only her attending doctor should come. Her cheerful hospital stay ended after 3 weeks, but when the doctor told her she had early-stage diabetes and should watch her weight, she started diligently eating everything she'd heard was good for her health. From then on, she took up swimming and sports dancing, determined to stay young in her old age. She began writing in large letters in her notebook while watching a health program. What's the point of writing the same things every day? You might as well study to be a traditional medicine doctor. Who said anything about becoming a doctor? It's good to know these things. And have you ever done anything for me? When have you ever bought me medicine when I was sick, or even worried about me? You throw a few coins my way and act like you're doing me a favor. I had long grown weary of my mother's health obsessions. Once, she even showed up at my office building with a street vendor in tow, demanding money on the spot. Over $1,000,001. I was speechless. It turned out she had been roped in by a group of vendors who targeted elderly people at the hospital. They would ask what was ailing them, claim the product had cured them too, and offer to introduce them to a miracle remedy. All you had to do was bring the money. After sending the vendors away, I walked my deflated mother home. The first thing I notice is Yunmi's hair. Thick waves she's clearly put a lot of effort into. Her approach to love is unique. She says she falls in head over heels every time she meets a new man, and I sometimes envy the way her passion never cools, like molten iron. She claims no man has ever left her since she turned 20, and that after each breakup, she immediately finds someone new. You've got a hot date tonight. Yunmi rolls her chair back with her heel, sidles up to me, and whispers in my ear. I might be spending the night with him for the first time. When I make a surprised face, she laughs. What are you so shocked about? You'd be amazed how many people go straight to a motel on the first date. She heads back to her desk and calls over her shoulder. So who's your date tonight, Unnie? Dinner with my mom. Boring. Her word stings. With no man to spend Christmas with, I suddenly feel terribly old. Why are there so many holidays to keep track of? The world's calendar seemed built entirely for couples. Christmas Eve has never been a blessed day for my family, or for me personally. When I was in high school, my father was struck by a car on his way home and died. He left behind a substantial insurance settlement and compensation as a kind of inheritance for the family he left behind. That was on Christmas Eve. Lying in the hospital bed, my father's body had smelled sweet. I think it was from the cake he'd been carrying, the cream from the crushed box soaking into his clothes. And my wonderful boyfriend left me on Christmas Eve, too. He said he was going to an island. He sent a text saying he had to go find his dream before it was too late, and he left. I missed him terribly. The idea of parting with someone so tall, so handsome, without a single flaw. He had been a devoted boyfriend. His luxury car made him even more attractive, and walking beside him with my arm through his had made me proud. It rained on the Christmas Eve he left. Apparently, statistically, more couples break up on Christmas Eve than any other night. Some say it's usually the woman who ends things. That's how my relationship with my fourth man came to an end. After that, I couldn't seem to hold on to anyone decent. Most of my encounters amounted to just a few dates. Some men tried to gauge how much was in my bank account. Others showed suspiciously keen interest in the size of my apartment. A few, upon hearing I was an only child, openly mentioned inheriting my parents' estate. I'm not a gold digger's ideal, no seven-figure salary or prestigious profession, but I have over 200 million won saved. If I manage my money well, financial stability isn't far off. I'm not opposed to marriage. If the right man came along, I'd give up the single life in a heartbeat. Until recently, my mother had been trying to set me up through matchmaking circles. But now she just says even a blind bird wouldn't look my way. Around 5 o'clock, a text came from her. I'm at the Starbucks on the first floor of your building. Are you almost done? Her fur coat is so glossy it looks like she's poured a full bottle of sesame oil over it. She demanded I buy it for her birthday the year before last. On her thick-knuckled fingers, a 5-carat diamond ring she bought in Yongno glitters and gleams. She won it first in a diamond ring savings club she organized herself. The day she brought it home, she dragged me into the bedroom the moment I walked through the door after work and pulled the ring box from the dresser drawer. You know that rainbow that appears after the rain? I wanted it. It sounds silly, but when I was little, I hiked all over a mountain trying to catch one. I thought, if I could just hold that rainbow in my hands once, and now I can have so many of them. 200 million won is cheap for that. The diamond ring on my mother's wrinkled hand didn't suit her. The age spots scattered across the back of her hand were enough to dim the ring's brilliance. Eventually, she went to a dermatologist and had them removed with a laser. Your father never once gave me even a copper ring. Back then, everyone was just scraping by. I moved into a poor household and sighed every day. So many days spent worrying about the next meal, and your grandmother just talked endlessly about the old days, when tigers still walked the earth. Born an only daughter, she'd say, she never had to do anything hard, always going on about her bloodline. What bloodline? There wasn't even the backbone of an anchovy in that family. All they gave me when we moved to Seoul was a worn-out blanket and a pot. The diamond ring, bought for 200 million won, sparkled with rainbow light under the lamp. Every morning she would take it from its box and polish it again and again, afraid its rainbow might fade. Every man I'd been with slipped a ring onto my finger, moved me with their vows of eternal love. But the feeling always faded faster than the ring's shine, and each time I'd pull the ring off and throw it as hard as I could into the air. "Mom!" She startles, nearly spilling her coffee. "What kind of child creeps up without making a sound? You're just like your grandmother that way. So quiet, no footstep at all. My heart is still pounding." "Do you hate Grandma that much, Mom?" Who said anything about hating her? She gives me a sideways glare. My mother used to tell me she married my father because she figured she wouldn't starve. He ran a grain mill. I always laughed when she said it. But when she actually got there, the mill was in such a remote village that there was almost never any cash to speak of. She regretted it but stayed anyway, settled into the crumbling rural life. My father, the devoted son, put his mother's word above everything, so my mother never raised her voice once. My grandmother's oppression was so subtle, so understated, that no one from the outside could see it. In the early hours before dawn, a dark shadow would pace back and forth across the paper screen door. "My dear, the chimney at the house down the hill is already smoking. Looks like they've started breakfast." That's how she drove my mother out of her sleep every single morning. And when my mother finally dragged herself up and opened the door, it was still too early even for dawn. Grandmother was not a kind woman in my mother's eyes. Around the time they had gotten settled in Seoul, Grandmother showed up at the bus terminal with all her bundles. "Mother, why do you have so much luggage?" "My dear, I've come because I want to live with my son and daughter-in-law. The old saying is true. You don't know what you have until it's gone. Didn't you say Seoul was stifling? People live everywhere, I suppose." And just like that, Grandmother claimed the main bedroom. My father never said a word, just, "Yes, Mother," to everything she asked. The hotel was full. The decorated tree and the soft strains of a carol made the evening feel festive. The maitre d' led us to our reserved table and pulled my mother's chair out gently as she sat down. She arranged her expression into something refined, and it made her look endearing. We seemed to be the only mother-daughter pair, mostly couples and families around us. "Mom, you look like a wealthy society lady." "I have my dignity too, you know. You have a habit of underestimating me." Throughout dinner, my mother's diamond ring shines brilliantly. She glances at it again and again with quiet satisfaction. It took 10 years of marriage before my parents had me. My mother blamed Grandmother entirely for the delay. She said it felt like Grandmother was standing guard outside their bedroom door every night. She says she was only able to conceive me after they finally moved to Seoul in the winter. Back then, a mother-in-law's word was law. Who would dare talk back? Your aunts would never have allowed it, and your father, devoted son that he was, he certainly wouldn't. After my father died, and then Grandmother too, my mother and I spent a great deal of time together. We went to movies, had meals at nice restaurants, even traveled abroad occasionally. But we have nothing in common. I dislike my mother's way of living, and sometimes I sense she quietly hopes I'll do for her what she once did for grandmother. During the 10 years after my father was gone, the Cold War between my mother and grandmother grew worse. Grandmother complained endlessly that she had become a burden in a house without a son. The household erupted in conflict. The fight started because my mother hadn't brought grandmother her meals on time. "No one is saying anything against you, Mother, but I'm past 50 now. I'm old enough to be seeing my daughter married off. How long do I have to live under your criticism?" The way you talk, people would think I was a wicked mother-in-law. Did I mistreat you? Why do you bring up my dead son at every turn? Don't you feel even a little sorry for me? I'm the pitiful one. People think I'm being pampered by my daughter-in-law, but that's a complete lie. My son is dead, and this old woman gets nothing but disrespect. Oh, it breaks my heart. I should just die. Cross the Jordan and go be with my son. Everyone thinks I live in comfort. What a joke. The only reason I can even survive is because of the money my son left behind. No one knows how I really live here. You're living comfortably on what my son left you. If it weren't for my son, how could you afford a house like this? The Cold War between my mother and grandmother lasted more than 10 days. Only after an aunt came over did the two settle back into acting as if nothing had happened. Whenever there was a family gathering and relatives visited, grandmother would deliberately pull out her most worn and ragged clothes and put them on with great insistence before greeting everyone. Her expression was the most pitiful face in the world, her eyes drawing sympathy from everyone who looked at her. My mother saw through it and dismissed it. She just gets worse the older she gets. From grandmother's perspective, it was a protest, proof that she was absolutely not living in comfort under her daughter-in-law's care. It must have been early spring. My mother and I got into an argument. My body always ran cold in seasonal transitions, and I had been taking traditional herbal medicine I'd had prescribed for myself. While watching a health program, my mother mentioned that a remedy on screen was supposed to be good for arthritis, and she looked at me, searching for agreement. I should have held my tongue. Exercise, Mom. Every time something's supposedly good, you're all over it. The moment the words left my mouth, she sat up from where she'd been lying down. I've never said a word even when I was hurt. You made herbal medicine for your cold hands, but you never once made a batch for your own mother. Do you know how much that stung? You selfish girl thinking only of yourself. You wouldn't even blink if your mother were sick. I gave birth to you and drank seaweed soup for it. Truly, having no children would be a blessing. I regret risking my life to have you. Risked her life to have me. That is my mother's greatest weapon and my greatest weakness. She nearly bled to death giving birth to me, they said, almost didn't survive. You've eaten ginseng all this time and never once gave me any, just shoveling it all down your own throat. So I took a little herbal medicine for my cold hands. Is that really so terrible? I paid for it myself. You little wretch. Eat well and live long. I've taken 3 courses of herbal medicine without ever preparing one for her, but I have no desire to live long. Even now, I can't quite understand why that hurt her so deeply. Whenever we raised our voices at each other, it would spiral into petty grievances. Feelings would get wounded, and eventually my mother would turn away, sniffling and mutter under her breath so I could barely hear. Why did I suffer through my youth? Was it easy being widowed at 45? Was it easy caring for an elderly mother-in-law on my own? Anyone else would have remarried long ago. I never once felt any affection toward that woman. All that nursing wore me to the bone. She had that resentful, bottled-up personality right until the very end. You have no idea how hard it was. When grandmother came home from the hospital, her neatly pinned hair had come undone. As her long hair was cut away in thick chunks by the scissors, her clouded eyes lost their focus, as if part of her body were being severed. "Mother, nobody wears their hair pinned up like this anymore. All the older women are getting it cut short." The back of grandmother's head, now in a short cut, looked unsettled. "Sujung, don't throw away my hair. Gather it up and give it to me." "What do you want it for?" "Just to keep." I wrapped her white hair in hanji paper and gave it to her. "Grandmother, what should I do with your hairpin?" "Keep it." "Why don't you get a perm while you're at it?" "No." The silver hairpin that had held grandmother's life together came into my hands. The weight of the years had left dark marks on the silver. "What's the point of keeping that hair? Why would you hold on to it, Mother?" Grandmother turned away and said nothing. Then something strange happened. Dark hair began growing in at grandmother's roots. When my mother noticed, she clutched her own chest and spoke in a low, stunned voice. "The old woman is having a second spring. Black hair is coming in. Lord help me, I'll never die in peace." She said it like a refrain, over and over. And sure enough, her roots continued to darken. Before long, grandmother's white hair had vanished entirely, replaced by hair as black as charcoal. Then, as my mother had said, grandmother, apparently in the midst of her second spring, fell in the bathroom. She was taken to the hospital, but the doctors said the hairline fracture in her hip wouldn't heal easily at her age. She came home after a month and lay in bed every day, and my mother turned her every hour or two so she wouldn't develop bed sores. A stainless steel chamber pot, tracked down from a market near Cheonggyecheon, was placed in grandmother's room. My mother regularly emptied the sloshing yellow urine into the toilet. It was revolting. Terrible as it sounds to say. It felt like this old woman was determined to drag her down with her. Being the only daughter-in-law made it impossible to simply walk away from her mother-in-law's shadow. She was so stubborn, so unyielding. One day she announced, even as her body rotted away with bed sores, that she intended to live to 96. My mother's jaw dropped. She said a cousin of hers had lived like that and died at 92. The aunts had never once properly stepped in to help. They dodged and maneuvered, always finding ways to avoid taking on the burden. After the partial paralysis, grandmother couldn't do anything on her own. She would come whimpering every other day, asking for help bathing. And the hardest thing of all, people say that if an elderly person is sick, but at least someone handles their bodily needs. You should get down and thank the heavens. Even with laxatives, nothing would come. Her constipation grew so bad her face turned yellow. She'd strain until her face went red, but nothing. And when something came, it was no more than a few pellets. She'd sidle up, jabbing my mother in the side, whimpering. She needed to go. My mother said she had sinned in a past life. Even when the aunts came to visit, she never said a word about her hardship. Stubborn old woman. After she died, my mother told herself, "From now on, I live only for myself." One Saturday, she was woken by the doorbell. It was a delivery. Inside the box, individually wrapped pomegranate extract. "Mom, did you order from a home shopping channel?" "It was cheap. Buy one, get two free." "There's still onion juice in the fridge. What are you going to do with all of it?" Pomegranate is supposed to be so good for women, especially for someone going through menopause like me. A doctor came on the home shopping channel and said pomegranate is wonderful. These days, even Botox doesn't smooth out the wrinkles. It's just not working anymore. If only I could be 10 years younger. My mother had always dreaded the thought of grandmother living a long life. Grandmother had grown up as the pampered only daughter of a wealthy family and was frail from childhood, taking medicines that cost as much as a cow. But the grandmother I remember was vigorous enough to do cold water scrubbing even in the dead of winter. She would only finish a full bowl of rice if there was a fish with a strong smell on the table. Even with her eyes clouded by age, she'd lift her drooping eyelids with her fingers to inspect the dishes on the table. When the aunts had the operation to remove her sagging eyelids, my mother said, borrowing a phrase, that the old woman was living in the lap of luxury in her final years, getting double eyelid surgery no less. But after the surgery, grandmother said she could see much better. Even while ill, her appetite was fearsome. My mother couldn't keep up with her growing weight. Every time she shifted grandmother's position, she'd break into a cold sweat. She eats well even when she's sick. That's why she lives so long. She says she has no appetite but still finishes every bowl. And then she makes a fuss that she can't go to the toilet. Lord, I'll never live to a normal age. We couldn't get a taxi in front of the hotel, so my mother and I decided to walk and soak in the Christmas Eve atmosphere. It was late, but the roads were backed up with traffic. "Mom, do you think Dad and Grandmother found each other?" "I suppose they did. She'll go straight to your father and talk about everything that's wrong with me." "Do you still hate Grandmother?" "Well, hate isn't quite right anymore. These days I mostly just feel sorry for her." "Do you miss Dad, Mom?" Who could have known he'd go so soon? Even past midnight, the streets were so packed there was nowhere to put your feet. My mother, who'd had one beer, was shivering. Whether from the alcohol or the cold, I couldn't tell. "Let's get a taxi. I'm freezing." Half the road was overtaken by people desperately trying to flag one down. I ran back and forth shouting with the rest of them. Every cab I tried to catch slipped away. Then my mother announced, "I'll get one," and marched straight into the road. The moment a man grabbed the door handle of a taxi he'd caught, she rushed over and threw the door open. "Soo-jung!" She waved me over, calling my name. I ran to her without a word and climbed in. "Driver, Oksudong, please. Look at those bridge lights. Aren't they beautiful?" As we crossed the bridge, her voice came to me soft and low, like a girl walking through a dream. The dazzling ring on her thick-knuckled hand glowed even brighter. Every morning when I opened the door to your grandmother's room, do you know what I thought? Please, let today be the day. 2 years of that. People called me a devoted daughter-in-law and said your grandmother had gone quickly. And I hated hearing it more than anything. It sounded like a curse, like I was being sentenced to handle her needs forever. It shackled me. Do you know why I did it? Because there was no one else. I did it against my will. She was cold right to the end, even as she breathed her last. With all her daughters gathered around, she didn't take my hand. She knew I hated her. When I wept at the funeral, people said what a deep bond we'd had, that she must have gone quickly for my sake. Let them try it. Do you know why I cried? It wasn't for her. I cried for my own life. The grief was unbearable. It was worse than when your father died. I felt wronged. I couldn't bear how empty and pitiful my life had been. I cried then because I needed to survive. If I hadn't, I think I would have died. To make up for all those sorrowful years, my mother threw herself into everything with great energy. She asked me to get her a credit card, took computer classes at the community center. Times have really changed. I'm doing things I never would have dreamed of before. The community center is offering a sports dance class for seniors. What do you think about signing up? Do whatever you want, Mom. You could at least answer warmly. Would it kill you? She turned on the TV. A doctor was explaining a segment on herniated discs. She murmured along with it to herself. I've got one protruding disc, you know. They call it a disc, but it's too late for surgery, and my hands and feet keep going numb. I should have had it done years ago. What if something goes wrong and I end up unable to walk? Now my mother closes her eyes and drifts towards sleep. The yellow lights reflecting in the water under the Hangang Bridge are growing faint. I wipe the fogged-up window with my hand. The river catches the glow of the street lights and shimmers. Is it too late for my mother to call this her golden years? The rainbow that blazes into countless faces of light, alive in her hands, perhaps it makes her happy. She may be chasing the luminous, dreamlike illusions of youth. Even if you get married and have children, I won't babysit. I don't want to give up whatever years I have left. Don't think about leaning on me. From now on, I'm going to live doing what I want. The sight of her saying it so firmly no longer makes me angry. A memory floated back. My mother on a winter day, wrapping a thick fox fur scarf around her neck and heading out the door. I didn't know before. When your grandmother complained that her whole body ached, do you know what I said? Mother, of course it hurts. You're getting old. But now that I'm getting old, every part of me aches. That's what I feel most sorry about to your grandmother. My mother opens my bedroom door carefully. Sujung, are you asleep? No, why? Would you sleep with me tonight? She's holding a pillow. No. You little brat. Mom, you know I can't sleep with someone next to me. Getting old is lonely. I keep feeling more and more alone. I hate the dark. As she closed the door and went back, a wave of guilt washed over me. There was a time when falling asleep beside my mother was the greatest happiness I knew. Why is it that I keep wanting more distance from her now? Around 3 in the morning, I open her door. The television is on alone, blazing in the dark, and my mother lies on her side, asleep. I turn it off with the remote. She is curled up like an animal caught in the dark. I lie down quietly beside her, slip my hand under her arm and touch her breast. Like a burst water balloon, soft and slack with no elasticity left. When did you come? Just now. Sujung, don't give up what you want for my sake. Live the life you want to live. The sound of rain beating against the window. Outside, a winter shower has come. Mom, when the winter rain stops, will there be a rainbow? I hope a double rainbow appears on Christmas morning. The rain grows louder. A winter shower. 10,000 hands knocking at the window through the long night. The diamond ring will shine on my mother's finger every morning. The brilliant diamond is shattered into countless facets by the light that falls on it from outside. Those polished faces press against each other, pushing away and yet holding together, sustaining a dazzling beauty. Like the distance between my mother and me, unable to draw any closer, yet unable to drift any further apart. The diamond ring, said to be the hardest mineral in the world, may hold for my mother the crystallized essence of one beautiful moment, the permanence she longs to hold on to. Everything scatters and fades, sinking at last into memory. My mother, with her fierce attachment to life, grows more vibrant with every passing year. She will go on watching her health programs every day, stocking and eating her remedies, exercising. She will fill her time with every hobby she can find. Is the diamond my mother's rainbow, the place she tucks away the fleeting moments of life to caress and keep forever? It must hold the earnest wish to embrace everything she loves most. Perhaps I am one of those rainbows too, and now she is learning to let that rainbow go, out into the world.